up, everybody? Bobby? Another trip today, buddy?
Yep.
So, Bobby and I are heading to Sleepy Hollow, New York. This is the Swab Podcast, like, fourth time there. But the difference between this time and all the other times is all the other times we went there, we were looking for spooky and strange. Me and Joey were there originally. We went to Horse Feathers. We had Julia from Horse Feathers, and she runs the Sleepy Hollow Country Instagram page. Very popular page on Instagram about all things Sleepy Hollow and Hudson Valley, Westchester, New York. And she was kind enough to give us a tour of certain areas there that may have some paranormal activity. That trip turned into a borderline history lesson in regards to Sleepy Hollow. Then we went back for the Bronze Lady statue with Bobby.
Yeah, that was good.
And we sat on the Bronze Lady statue, I did, on the Bronze Lady statue's lap to see if we had anything happen. And we toured the cemetery. We came across certain things there. This episode in particular, as you have seen on the other Cemeteries of New York episodes, is about the historics and how the spooky lores got intertwined with the history there. Now, Sleepy Hollow Cemetery has a whole slew of history, and we are there to show you the history and then show you certain things that revolve around the spooky. Bobby, you ready to do this?
Man, I was born.
Did your history lesson before this?
A little bit, yeah.
Bobby's like a sponge. He absorbs everything if it intrigues him.
I don't know how much I retain, but I absorb.
No, we'll be good.
That's going to be good, yeah.
Nice scenery. And then, of course, all these episodes are being filmed, in advance, and we've been getting real lucky with the weather. It already feels like fall.
Oh, it's beautiful. Right now,
this is perfect weather.
a little cooler.
It is a little cooler today. It's
like
actually September 1st we're filming this episode, so you guys will be seeing it obviously a little later. But sit back, relax. We're going to give you some history on Sleepy Hollow Cemetery and some of the spooky lores that are intertwined with there. Yeah. See you there. All right, so we just got to Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, and at the very entrance of the cemetery is the older part where more of the historical headstones are, and of course Washington Irving. So Bobby and I are going to take you and show you the sights of one of the most beautiful cemeteries that we have been to.
Beautiful.
When you arrive at Sleepy Hollow, you're not just entering a village on the Hudson River. You're stepping into one of America's most legendary landscapes, a place caught in time. Its rolling hills, an ancient stone church, and crooked grave markers have inspired centuries of ghost stories, none more famous than Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. This land carries 3 centuries of history, from Dutch settlers carving farms into the wilderness, to Hessian soldiers clashing with American patriots, to families laying their dead in one of New York's oldest churchyards. At the heart of it all stands the Old Dutch Church, built in 1685 by Frederick Phelpsy, a wealthy Dutchman who owned much of the surrounding land. The church is small, made of rough stone and simple in design, yet it has stood for over 300 years, surviving war, revolution, and the growth of the nation around it. Surrounding it is the Old Dutch Burial Ground, one of the oldest cemeteries in New York State. The graveyard's layout reflects the architecture of its time. Irregular rows of headstones, many made from brown sandstone and slate, carved with winged skulls, angels, hourglasses, and biblical motifs. Some stones lean and sink into the earth, while others are inscribed in Dutch, a reminder of the colony's origins before English culture dominated the region. Unlike modern cemeteries with their neat symmetry, this burying ground feels chaotic, almost alive, a tangled history written in stone.
So Bobby and I are in front of the Old Dutch Cemetery and in front of the Old Dutch Church, a very historical cemetery right here. Bobby was noticing some things as we were panning about the dates on the tombstones that actually predate some of our historics. Bobby, you want to share some thoughts on that?
Yeah, we are in the oldest part of the cemetery now. The stones are dated early 1800s. I think it became an official cemetery in 1849. I'd have to check that. But there were stones here somewhere, we'd love to find it, from 1640. So it predated these old stones by 200 years, and up to this day today, you can still get buried here. The newer part, above or below ground. I thought that was kind of cool.
This cemetery is so big that I remember the first time that me and Joey were here, that first of all, we didn't realize you could drive through the cemetery. That's number one. Number two is, if you are on foot and there's so many people, what is it, 45,000 something like that?
45,000 people interned here, and the place is 90 acres.
Yeah,
that's huge.
For you to find a certain plot, you need to actually go online and get the area, the section. Otherwise, you're not going to find. But we're going to continue showing you. This is the side of the Old Dutch Church, and we are in the oldest part. So when you pull into Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, the main entrance, which is off Broadway, you are automatically in the oldest part of the cemetery, which is fairly small. Once you pass Washington Irving's grave, which we're going to get to, that's where you start getting into the newer section of the cemetery. But the immediate older area is probably an acre and a half to an acre of just tombstones. The rest of the cemetery gets newer and newer as you progress on.
Yeah.
There's a sign for the Old Dutch Church right there.
1687.
We are here at one of the more iconic signs when you first get off of Broadway and enter the main entrance of Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. Upon walking in a couple of 100 feet, come across this sign right here. Headless Horseman tethers his own horse nightly among graves in this churchyard, according to the legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, which momentarily we'll take you over to see. And there's a lot of history to the Headless Horseman story by Washington Irving. He took a lot of the names in his works from this cemetery.
Yeah.
When Irving was here as a kid, he took a love and a liking to the Hudson Valley, specifically Sleepy Hollow, Tarrytown. And when he came to write his works, he used names from these graves in his works. But he also used some history. There is a tale when the British hired these Hessian mercenaries, which were German, that a Hessian soldier did get decapitated by the means of a cannonball. And Bobby and I were in Sparta Cemetery filming, and a cannonball knocked a headstone pretty much in half and damaged other parts of the cemetery there. So cannonballs were used damn near all the way up to World War I. And if you were unfortunate enough to get hit with one in the head, obviously you're going to be done.
A little bit.
And your head's going to be gone. And that is where Irving used his idea to create the Headless Horseman, through the lingering that it actually happened. And apparently, somewhere in the cemetery or area, that Hessian soldier was buried, which is why some people believe there's an actual ghost story to Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, where you hear galloping and there's a spirit that walks around here with no head, which would be that Hessian soldier who died during the revolutionary times by the way of a cannonball.
No figure is more deeply tied to this place than Washington Irving. Born in Manhattan in 1783, Irving was the youngest of 11 children in a bustling merchant family. But Manhattan at the turn of the 19th century was often gripped by deadly epidemics, especially yellow fever. When an outbreak swept through the city, Irving's parents feared for their health. To protect him, they sent him away to the fresh country air of the Hudson Valley, specifically to Tarrytown and Sleepy Hollow area. At that time, the countryside was seen as a safe escape from the crowded, disease-ridden streets of New York. Here, Irving roamed the woods and fields, listening to the tales of Dutch descendants who still clung to their folklore. Farmers and villagers told stories of witches, haunted places, and ghostly riders. These impressions would follow him throughout his life. Years later, Irving turned to those memories and literature and made it his own in 1820 when he published the legend of Sleepy Hollow, instantly immortalizing the region. What made Irving's tales so vivid was his ability to blur the reality with imagination. He borrowed real names from the old Dutch burying ground, families like the Van Tassels, the Martlings, and Van Wart, lifting them directly from the gravestones and weaving them into his story. By grounding his characters in the very soil of Sleepy Hollow, Irving gave his ghost stories a chilling authenticity. Ichabod Crane, Katrina Van Tassel, Brom Bones, and above all, the Headless Horseman. They feel inseparable from the crooked headstones and shadowed paths of the burying ground. Next to the old Dutch burial ground lies Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, founded in 1849. Unlike the colonial chaos of the Dutch yard, Sleepy Hollow Cemetery reflects Victorian design. Broad lanes, winding paths, elaborate mausoleums, and family plots carefully laid out like a landscaped park. Washington Irving himself is buried here under a modest white stone, not far from the old Dutch church where he immortalized it. His grave has become a site of pilgrimage, often decorated with coins, flowers, and pumpkins left in tribute. Irving loved the Hudson Valley so much that he eventually purchased an estate called Sunnyside, located just out of Sleepy Hollow near Tarrytown, New York. The whimsical Dutch-style home became his permanent residence, filled with books, artwork, and memories, where he entertained guests from around the world. By the time he died in 1859, Irving was celebrated as America's first great man of letters. Yet, despite his fame, he chose to be buried simply in Sleepy Hollow, close to the stories that helped shape his life. He is far from the only notable figure in the cemetery. Industrial giants and cultural icons rest here. Andrew Carnegie, Walter Chrysler, Elizabeth Arden, William Rockefeller, Samuel Gompers, Lena Hemsley. Together, these burials turned Sleepy Hollow Cemetery into a cross-section of American history. From Revolutionary soldiers to Gilded Age titans, all interwoven with the folklore that made Sleepy Hollow legendary. Today, Sleepy Hollow stands as more than just a quiet town. It is a living legend. Every October, thousands flock here to walk the grounds of the old Dutch church, to see Irving's grave, and to feel the atmosphere of centuries pressing in. As the sun sets, crooked stones cast long shadows across the burial ground. The Hudson Valley winds rattle the trees, and in that stillness, It isn't hard to imagine Ichabod Crane riding nervously past the church, praying not to hear the thunder of ghostly hooves behind him. Sleepy Hollow is not just a story, it is a place where architecture, folklore, and history intertwine, where America's first great ghost story still feels alive.
So, perfect way to finish this mini-series for Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, Cemeteries of New York, is right in front of the Sleepy Hollow Bridge. Now, of course, like we said before, that is not the bridge. It is the bridge that was rebuilt in the cemetery that is supposed to be the iconic scene of Ichabod Crane running away from the Headless Horseman.
Yeah.
But this cemetery, if you are in the New York area or you are visiting, you should definitely hop on a train or take a car to visit this cemetery. It's very beautiful. It's very historic. When you walk around here, it has this vibe.
It does.
Like it's almost alive through history. And the way it's set up, the hills and the feel to it is just one of my favorite cemeteries that I've been to personally.
By far.
And we're filming in August, and there's a lot of leaves on the floor already. There's that crisp air, and when you think Sleepy Hollow, you think about the Headless Horseman off the bat, this cemetery, and the history here. And we're going to give you guys a little bonus segment. We're going to go over to where
This is good.
Major Andre was captured, and a ghost tale that is said to be in that area, very close to the iconic restaurant Horse Feathers.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll give you a little snippet. If you go back to older videos where Joey and I were first here, you'll know what we're talking about. But we're going to retouch on that and give you a little bonus segment, me and Bobby.
Awesome.
So at this site, Joey and I had came here a couple of years ago to film our original documentary of Sleepy Hollow. And we learned that at this site where we just saw was where Major John Andre was captured. The American revolutionaries saw him, thought he was suspicious, pulled him aside, and they ended up checking him. What eventually they found was the plans of West Point in his boot. Now, if the British obtained those plans from West Point, the British naval fleet was very superior to the time. Had they got the plans for West Point, they would have knew every waterway and would have been able to wipe out the revolutionaries and essentially win the Revolutionary War. And then what happened is George Washington was in the area. Major Andre was taken to Tappan over the Tappan Zee Bridge. And yes, we still say Tappan Zee Bridge. And he was held in a little cottage or cabin for, I think, 3 days. And everyone felt bad for Major Andre because he was actually a nice guy. He wasn't really a soldier. He was just a very intelligent individual that the British were using. But if George Washington would have let him survive, there would have been no code of war. He was found in civilian clothes, which was a no-no. Had he been in a British uniform, it would have been a different circumstance for him. However, within 3 days, George Washington felt bad, and so did the other revolutionaries. And what they ended up doing is, after he was held 3 days in Tappan, which I believe is a restaurant now, Tappan 76, or the Old House Tappan, eventually he was hung pretty much around the corner from the cabin, where his ghost is said to be haunting that place. And of course, over here, that's the rumor or ghost story that Julie had told us a couple of years ago when we first filmed here. All right, so we're running the spirit box again. And this is supposedly where some spooky happenings occur. And we're gonna just ask some questions. Is the ghost of Major Andre here with us? Are there any other spirits from the Revolutionary War here? Is there a soldier that rides a horse in this park? Are there any revolutionary soldiers here, or any British soldiers?
Are there any Hessian soldiers here?
See, what I like about this is, even though we're not picking up anything here, it goes to show you, when we went back to Oakland Cemetery, we got the responses not once, but twice, the same word, and it came over loud and clear right after we asked the question.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes to show you what.
Actually, a Sparta also.
Sparta, did we catch something at Sparta?
Yeah, I thought we did.
Sparta, I don't really remember catching anything.
I'm sorry.
Oakland.
Oakland.
But Oakland, it said one and here,
And
twice.
Here. Yeah, that was
And
Oakland.
almost in the same voice. And that's how I like to kind of blend if this is working or not, as far as the spirit box. And we didn't catch anything, but we
Doesn't mean they're not here.
Doesn't mean they're not here. And just to show you guys a little extra history, hopefully one day we can go to eat at Tappan over the bridge, just to have a quick lunch and just get the vibe there. And they're pretty open to their history of ghost lore there. I remember when I went there the first time, and they were like pretty open with saying the place is haunted. Maybe they'll let us do some stuff. But guys, hope you enjoyed this episode of Cemeteries of New York. We gave you a little extra tidbit, the history and the mystery and the lures of Sleepy Hollow, New York. And of course, this is airing in the midst of spooky season. So if you're around the area, head over to Sleepy Hollow and enjoy the season there, because they do it up more than any other place in New York.
Yeah, they do it right.
So this is Bobby and Billy, and this has been another episode of Cemeteries of New York, of course, on the Say What Again Billy podcast YouTube channel. See you guys later.
All right.